Okay, good evening. The Eastham Conservation Commission will hold a remote public meeting on Tuesday, March 11th, 2025 at 6 p.m. pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, MGL Chapter 30A, Sections 18 to 25, Open Meeting Law, MGL Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, and Chapter 155 of the Code of the Town of Eastham, Eastham Wetlands Protection Bylaw. And first up, we have somebody who wishes to make a public comment. If you, I'm skipping over some stuff. I apologize. This meeting will be broadcast on Public Access Channel 8 and is available on the town website at eastham-ma.gov. Please remain mute unless it is your turn to speak. And if you are recording this meeting, please let the chair know. And I'm going to take attendance and then we can start. Janet Benjamins.
Here.
Joanne Cossett.
Here.
Greg Douglas.
Here.
Mike Harnett.
Here.
Chuck Wagner.
Here.
And Karen Strauss, I am here. Okay, now we'll go to the public comment. I understand we have somebody here who wishes to speak. If you could identify yourself for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Steve Larson, 40 Salt Marsh Way here in Eastham.
Okay, the floor is yours, sir.
Yeah, I had some questions about the recent project at near Boat Meadow Beach at 20 Beach Road. And I was surprised to see the parking lot closed off and the equipment and materials there. And so I wanted to do a little research about that. But I just had some questions about the approval and process.
Okay.
I wondered who monitors the impact of the erosion control at that project?
We get annual monitoring reports during the process over the next 3 years, and we can discuss whether we condition it to have ongoing monitoring reports in the future. So it would be the combination of us and the Conservation Department and the homeowners and their engineers and contractors.
It is monitored annually or so?
Well, at the moment, as it's going in, they're conditioned to give us reports throughout the installation process.
Okay.
And then at the end of 3 years, they come and ask for either an extension of the permit or a certificate of compliance, and then we review what's been going on and set some conditions.
That answers another question I had, whether it was something that you had to reapply for installation or how that worked.
So once we approve an order of conditions for the permit, the work gets done. It has to adhere to those conditions. And when the work is done, they come back to us and we review whether they have adhered to the conditions. And then they can ask for an extension permit if they want, or we like to encourage people to ask for a certificate of compliance with ongoing conditions.
Okay. And then I was particularly interested in the decision to use the sturdy drift fencing rather than snow fence, which I think is more commonly used, because the sturdy, what I'm understanding from the Massachusetts Coastal Storm Management Office is they don't usually recommend the sturdy drift fencing.
Okay, Alex, you want to jump in?
I'm sorry?
I'm talking to our conservation agent. He might be able to help with some of this.
Hi, my name's Alex. I'm the conservation agent here in Eastham, and I just wanted to kind of add on to what Karen was saying. The commission also conditioned an as-built plan for this project. So an engineer does go out to the sites and surveys the project to ensure that it was installed as it was permitted by the commission. That's part of the approval process for this project.
And if you're interested in how we got to the conditions for the permit, the meetings where we discussed that are recorded and available on the town website.
Is it? Yeah.
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 So that might help answer a few of your questions in a little more depth.
Yeah, because I was just curious that it was something that wasn't recommended but was utilized there. That's why I was wondering how that decision was reached.
Oh, well, each project is evaluated individually for
Okay.
what would work under the circumstances. This is basically a dune reconstruction project and a very different project than other ones that we've permitted with sand drift fencing in the past.
And then is it anticipated that the replenishment and maintenance of the project will be ongoing throughout the year? How does that work? Does it depend
Well,
upon conditions or?
Sand nourishment is allowed during a particular time of year, October 15th through April 15th only. And the project has conditions on how much is allowed in any given year. Okay. So I think, does that answer your questions?
Yeah, for the most
Otherwise,
part, I just wondered in the future though, would access be allowed to the beach during maintenance periods? Because this year, you didn't really have access to the beach. There was so much stuff in the parking lot.
well, that was during the building phase. Usually the nourishment phase goes on a little shorter than that. So I'm going to suggest that if you have any more detailed questions, you can reach out to the Alex Bates in the Conservation Office, and I'm sure he'd be happy to talk with you further.
Yeah, I'd left a message for him to speak with him. So I wanted a chance to speak with you.
Can I chime
Yeah,
in
you
here,
can.
Karen?
Yes, please jump in.
Yeah, so I know during the construction phase, there was quite a bit of machinery in the parking lot there. You know, when talking with the contractor who was doing the work, we did condition that the north side of the parking lot would be used for the storage of equipment, and that public access couldn't be impeded during that construction phase. And like Karen said, going forward, when it comes to nourishment, that is a quicker process. So we don't anticipate that, you know, during the nourishment season, that public access will be blocked from the public landing. And I just also wanted to add that if you'd like to come by the office, I'd be more than willing to, you know, share our file with you and talk through, you know, the permitting process and the plans that were submitted for this project. If you have other questions you'd like answered.
Yeah, I just was curious because obviously this is going to be, you know, more of this sort of thing going on in the future as erosion continues on the bay side. So, thank you.
Yeah,
very
this was quite a novel project, I believe at the time. So we are, you know, looking forward to seeing these monitoring reports and to see, you know, how this project does going forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we appreciate your coming to ask questions.
Thank you.
The next up, we have an administrative review filed by Alex Belair. Applicant proposes to remove an existing landscape timber wall and replace it with a retaining wall at property located at 23 Locust Road, map 12, parcel 15D. And Alex Belair, if you want to just quickly walk us through the project.
Yeah, so I mean, all we're looking to do is just do a 1-for-1 replacement, remove that retaining wall, same height, same length, not changing anything, and then just replace it with the landscape timbers.
Okay, so I did have one question. It looks like the landscaping wall and that split rail fence are like right on top of each other. Is the fence going to be disturbed during that process?
Well, that fence, it'll come out during the process, but it will be placed right back in as soon as we're done. The project shouldn't take any more than 2 to 3 days.
Okay, and there was maybe some concern, there's a tree right there where you're working, that's going to be. Anything? Okay, so if we might have a motion to approve this with 24 hours notice to the Conservation Department before work starts, replace any damaged vegetation, material storage in the driveway, and to remove any debris in a timely manner.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Chuck? I lost him. Greg?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, there you go. All done.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, next up is a continuation of notice of intent filed by Joanna Buffington. Applicant proposes maintaining open meadows and control vegetation for safe access and wildlife habitat at properties located at 10, 20, 30 Cartway South, map 16, parcels 14A, 14B, and 13. And we had continued this to get a little more details on a plan about the work around the house. Specific, and I think Joanna has provided that for us. So is there anything you want to add, Joanna?
No, but bluebirds are checking out one of the birdhouses already.
Oh, good. Bring us here. Any questions from the commission? Alex, you have something.
I'll just note that the commission was also waiting on a determination from MISA, which we have received.
Oh, okay. So we have received that, and we've added those conditions to our draft order of conditions. Has Alex shared that with you, Joanna?
He shared that he was going to be sharing it with me.
Yeah, those
Okay.
were, this was the drafted conditions that we kind of looked over when you were in the office the last time.
Yeah, and you were gonna then incorporate anything Misa had put in there. So
Right,
yeah.
yeah, so MISA, I'm just looking through them here right now. I think
Mhm. We
was
did change one thing so that if you change contractors, that would require a pre-work site visit with the conservation agent just to go through the areas that are allowed under the permit.
With whoever's going to be doing the work.
With whoever's going to be doing the mowing or.
Okay, yeah, because right now it's John, and we don't know who's going to be doing it in the future, but
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
MISA issued a time of year restriction, as
Right.
you know, so the mowing has to occur prior to April 15th. They gave a 5-year duration for their determination. And upon filing for renewal extensions or an amendment to the order of conditions, the applicant needs to also contact NHESP if that happens.
Okay. So any other questions from the commission? Okay, so if we could have a motion to approve this plan with the draft order of conditions as discussed, special conditions for vegetation management. Yeah. I think that's it. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
Chuck? Janet,
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. Okay, so you're good for a while now, Joanna.
Thank you so much, everyone. And I'll
Okay.
wait to get, I guess, Amy and Alec, you'll send me the stuff in writing.
Yeah, we all have to sign it first, and
Yeah,
then
all right.
it'll
Okay.
be yours.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so next we have a continuation of notice of intent filed by Josephine Fellers Realty Trust. Applicant proposes relocating the existing dwelling onto a new foundation outside the 100-foot buffer zone, remove existing septic tank, pump basin, and abandoned cesspools, replace the existing beach access stairs, and restore disturbed areas with native plants at property located at 365 Higgins Road, map 04, parcel 456A. And Stephanie?
Hi, good evening. Stephanie Seekman with Ryder and Wilcox. Also, we have Teresa Sprague and I think Caitlin from Blue Flax are here, along with Justin Rays and a few of the members of the family. Yep, there's Caitlin. At the last meeting, I think the the biggest question that the commissioners had to do with the number of trees that were going to have to be removed in order to make this move. And Blue Flax and Justin went out to the site, flagged the trees that they thought would need to be removed. And Blue Flax put together a plan and submitted to you the location of all those trees. And I will I'll hand it over to them and they can best explain what they came up with.
Okay.
Great. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you again. Caitlin Camilleri with Blue Flax Design. So Teresa and I met Justin out at the site and we walked the whole site within the limit of work. And we tagged trees that were greater than 4-inch caliper to be removed for the house relocation. And we marked them on our plan graphically and provided a corresponding table as well with species, size, and total number of tree to be removed. And I hope that that helped to clarify it for you all. A couple things to mention. 2 trees were invasive. Sorry, excuse me. Rose of Sharon hibiscus is non-native, not invasive. 1 sycamore maple was flagged as invasive. And 2 trees of more significant size, a white pine and a white oak, are flagged and they're greater than 10-inch DBH caliper inch, but all the rest of the trees are between 4 and 6 to 8-inch caliper and are on the smaller side. 5 eastern red cedars are flagged because they are greater than 4-inch caliper, but Justin thinks that there is a good chance that those trees can remain, and those have been marked with a star on the plan. But we did want to acknowledge them because they are within the limit of work and are that size. Additional changes that we made to the plan, we did add another native perennial, a prickly pear cactus, to our restoration plant mix. And we also enhanced our grass and wildflower seed mix to include more sandplain grassland species. So it's kind of a more blended sandplain, heathland, grassland community. We'll see kind of how it evolves depending on site conditions and which plants take where. And any tree or shrub that's less than 4-inch DBH before construction will be flush cut and allowed to regenerate. So hoping a lot of the scrub oaks that are in place right now will end up coming back and regenerating in place. And I'm happy to answer any additional questions that you have about the plan that we provided.
Okay, thank you. We're going to start with Mike and then we'll come back to me. You're muted, Mike.
Oh. Okay. I've looked at the plan and I'm not sure a sand plane actually fits here. And I'm a little disturbed. We're taking out 21 trees and we're putting back basically shrubs, little flowers and shrubs. I'd like to see, so we're taking out canopy trees and we're putting back bearberry and beecham. So one of my main things is this is a successional stage, and it's normally pretty quick. And most of the sandplain heathplain came after the Europeans when they cut everything down. That's when the sandplain heathplains exploded. There may have been some sandplain heathplains around the cornfields when the Wampanoags were here, but we don't really know. And we did put in a big project over the town put in. And one of the problems when you have early succession stages like this, it takes a tremendous amount of work and energy to maintain it. And I'm not so sure that's a good idea on a coastal bank. The one they have at, I forget where it is, it's, but they have AmeriCorps come in and DPW come in every year and do a lot of cutting and pruning to keep it sandplain heathplain. I mean, I have one in my backyard. I get digger wasps. I have bayberry. I got bearberry. I got blueberries. I got beach plum. I got heather. I even have the cactus. I have everything here. So, and I have Vesper sparrows, which I find one little thing curious. The sycamore maple was introduced to the United States in 1804, but from England. The Savannah sparrow was introduced in 1835. So why are we killing the sycamore maple, but not the Savannah sparrow? One of those little questions that I like to know the answer. But anyway, when you go to this site, it is a pitch pine oak forest, and it's going to just come back. I think this is putting a finger in a dike. I don't think this is appropriate for here. But they mentioned last week that there are fields behind in the 35 acres somewhere. I mean, maybe you want to do it there. I just don't think on a coastal bank, this is the proper installation.
Okay, if I can speak to a few of those things. So we're not proposing to restore the coastal bank, we're restoring upland of the coastal bank. The project is we're removing a cottage from the edge of coastal bank and we're pulling it 115 feet landward. We're anticipating when we remove that cottage, the site is incredibly windy and sandy and salty. When we remove that cottage, vegetation will have a difficult time growing to the height that it is currently. Sandplain heathland plant species exist on this site, especially north of the house, where there is like a low area, beech, heather, bearberry. We looked at that. We're imagining when we remove this house, trees are going to have a difficult time reestablishing in this area. We saw an underrepresented and threatened vegetation community on site, and we took this as an opportunity to restore it as that. And Teresa has her hand raised as well. I'm sure she can speak.
Right. So Teresa, you go. I'm going to take a turn, and then Janet, you're after me.
Okay, thank you. Teresa Sprague with. Oh.
We'll let Mike come back with follow-up after
Okay.
Teresa. So okay.
Thank you. Teresa Sprague, Blue Flax Design here on behalf of the Fellers Family Trust. I really want to point out that this project is not about restoration mainly. This project is about moving a house that's located at the top of a severely eroding coastal bank back outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. So I really think it's important that we don't lose sight of the overall goals and objectives of this project. This project is to move an existing structure that's been there well over 70 years, that is now in danger because of a severely eroding coastal bank, and to move that structure outside of the 100-foot buffer zone to remove a cesspool that has been completely exposed and is now hanging over the top of the coastal bank, and to restore that area where the house is currently existing with vegetation. So I think that it's important to make sure that we're looking at this as an entire project, and this is not us coming in and saying we desire to restore a specific area. We're seeing an opportunity to restore an area where there's an existing structure that is threatened by erosion that is being proposed to be moved back. This is a modest seasonal cottage. So this is not a situation where the property owners are proposing to tear down an existing cottage and build a 10,000 square foot new structure in a beautifully pristine canopied area. They're moving an existing seasonal cottage back outside of conservation jurisdiction, outside of the buffer zone. So all structure will be located outside of jurisdictional area. And the entire jurisdictional area, the entire 100-foot buffer zone, with the exception of a pathway leading to the coastal stairs, will be restored with native vegetation based on what's existing on the site and what we think will be most successful in being restored. The other thing that I want to point out is, as we discussed in the last hearing, the topsoil that's removed from the area where the house is going to be relocated to will be put back into this area. So we'll have an opportunity for all of the existing seed bank that's in that area, as well as the existing soil and duff to be put back and help the area where the house is currently located regenerate with native vegetation. And that's really what the main goal of this is. We're holding a niche right now. So we're holding space with what we're proposing with this sandplain, grassland, heathland plant community, bringing back in the native soils, flush cutting the existing native bayberry and smaller scrub oaks, et cetera, so that they'll be allowed to regenerate, and this house will be allowed, and the area, I'm sorry, will be allowed to naturalize and restore itself, basically regenerate and heal itself. That is the main goal versus us coming in, bringing in large trees from areas that are species that are not local genotype, not local ecotype. We're really trying to keep a low footprint. We want to keep this area stable. We want to protect it. We want to provide wildlife habitat, but we want to do it in a way that's thoughtful and that allows this site to heal itself. As we pointed out, this is a property that's been in this family for a number of years, many generations. 35 acres are currently restricted, so they cannot be developed. And this family is managing this as a 35-acre forest. It's in a forestry restriction that's been mainly focused on improving wildlife habitat versus other forestry restrictions, which are there to log and then restore. So I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight of what this project is really about. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mike,
Oh,
do you want to have follow-up here or?
yeah, we all understand the house is moving back. I mean, it's fairly common around here. And as far as the windy, whenever we have a house on a coastal bank, it is windy, and we require them to replace pretty much existing what was there. We want to maintain a continuum on the bank. So the continuum here would be a pine oak forest. And I think that's what we need to go in and put in a heath plane, sand plane, unless you didn't do any further maintenance to keep it this way. That could be a starting ground and let the woodland take over, which is it's going to do. This is a successional stage. That's what they do. And I think that we require people to plant when they're on a sand strip to plant back the cedars they take out. And I don't think this should be any different. And as far as the 35 acres, we're only looking at the 100 feet. We look at the 100 feet, it doesn't matter if it's half acre or 35 acres or 3/4. We only look at the 100 feet. So I like it that they're 35 acres and they're maintaining it as a woodland, but we're only interested in the 100 feet as we are at every single property we look at. So just sticking to the 100 feet, it is a pitch pine woodland. We're putting in something that is not normally there. And I think to maintain it, the whole thing is to maintain it is going to be detrimental to the 100-foot buffer zone. That's my.
So if I could just reply, our goal here is to allow succession. I think that this is the part of this that's being confused. We're not trying to jumpstart the successional process. We're trying to allow succession. So rather than us trying to jumpstart that process by coming in and planting larger trees that we know are not going to survive, we're holding a space and allowing this area to regenerate.
I want to jump in on that one because the plans you submitted to us doesn't talk about that at all. You're talking about creating in this 1/5 of an acre space, a sand plain heathland in an area that has been pitch pine oak forest for some time, and taking out an amount of soil from where you're moving the house, which is in a pitch pine oak forest, and putting that in to fill in the foundation where you take the house out. And in your plans that you've submitted, and what you said in our last meeting, you said that that this is going to regenerate sandplain grassland species. And you provided no actual evidence that that would be so. And it seems to me that it's just as likely to bring in pitch pine and oak. So now you're telling us, in reply to Mike's comments, that this is going to be a successional area and the trees will grow back in. So why are we getting so concerned about calling this a sandplain heathland? And why aren't we just managing this as you're taking out canopy trees, more canopy trees have to go in? And and I have questions about the sandplain heathland area that you're proposing. It's a very small fragmented piece of habitat, not contiguous with other sandplain heathland. You spend a lot of time in the narrative and talking about species and certain kinds of sparrows and other things that rely on this habitat. But this is a very isolated, small piece of fragmented habitat, and it's a nice piece of landscaping. But I don't think it's really a sandplain heathland. Mike mentioned the area in Eastham that the town has restored as a sandplain heathland grassland. That's up at Sandy Meadow, and that requires work to be done. The seashore in the last week has been doing prescribed burns at Fort Hill and other locations to keep these kinds of heathlands open. So it would take some management to keep this as that kind of habitat. And you don't talk about ongoing management of this area as a sandplain heathland at all in the landscaping plan. You do talk about reestablishing mycorrhizoa and the microbiota, but you're also talking about taking soil from a pitch pine oak forest and putting that into this location and then expecting it to be the same kind of microzoa and microbiota that you would need for that kind of species. So I'm not really understanding, having gone back and looked at it in more depth after our last conversation 2 weeks ago, what you really want to do, what you really expect to happen here, how you plan to manage it going on, because we certainly don't want a lot of management going on in the 100-foot buffer zone. So we understand that your project is moving the house, and I don't think anybody on the commission has any trouble with that part of the project. We're just trying to understand the work you want to do in the 100-foot buffer zone after you move the house to revegetate the area. So I don't know that it's clear
So,
here.
okay, if I could speak to that, I think the idea here is that we want to restore this with a plant community that's appropriate to the site. We want to recognize that this is an area that is currently a house. It's a structure. It's going to be backfilled with sand. The topsoil layer will be returned with the topsoil that's going to be removed from the existing structure. And the reality is that we are looking at trying to get this established with something that we know is going to successfully grow. We do also, and I stated this at the last hearing, recognize that the property owners would like to maintain a view to the water, which I do not think is inappropriate, given the fact that they're currently exposed wide open to the top of Coastal Bank. They're moving the house back. They'd like to be able to retain a vista, maintain a vista to the water without a significant amount of management. They recognize they want taller shrubs in here. They want things that are going to grow. It's going to take time. We did have a discussion with Mary Goodyear, who's on this call. She is willing to plant back trees in this area because, frankly, to hold this project up for this kind of conversation seems to be almost shooting ourselves in the foot here. We understand that the area needs to be restored where the existing structure and cesspool and all of the patio space, et cetera, is located. They're 100% willing to do that. My recommendation is if there are going to be trees required in here, they be small size container trees that are going to be from off-site or potentially relocated. Also, in having some conversation with Mary, she thinks there may be an opportunity opportunity where some of the smaller caliper trees, mainly pitch pines that are growing back or have started to grow back since the septic system was done, when the plants had to be cut, and all of that pitch pine and all of that scrub oak vegetation came back, be transplanted into this area. But we would like to recognize that we would like to maintain a view to the water. So the idea, and frankly, I think the area is going to be wind pruned. I don't think that we're going to get substantial canopy vegetation. The trees that are currently exposed on that site are not healthy. You can see that cherry that's located at the top of Coastal Bank is in very poor condition. It's more than 3/4 dead. It's wind pruned, et cetera. So our goal is we don't want to hold this project up for an argument over restoration. I think the family wants to do the right thing. We're looking at this as an opportunity to put back a plant community that does exist on this site. I know I've heard a couple of commissioners say that these species are not existing on the site. They are actually existing on this site. And so that's why we chose these particular species to go back here, because they are existing. We also recognize that the bayberry is going to move back in, the beech plum is going to move back in, and over time, some pitch pine, cedar, and oak may move back in. The dominant species here are pitch pine and cedar. And the pitch pines that are regenerating are healthy. The more mature pitch pines are all suffering from turpentine beetle infestation, which we see everywhere on the Cape. So I think that plant community will restore itself. The idea here is to get this site stable. That is the main goal of this project, is the stability of the site, the stability of the 100-foot buffer zone, the stability of the coastal bank. So I hope that answers that question to the commission's satisfaction. And if the commission would like us to replant trees, I would recommend doing small pitch pine oak container-sized plants, maybe in the 5-gallon range, and at least give them a fighting chance to establish root systems before they're completely taken out by the wind on this site.
Janet, you want to go ahead?
Yes, I commend the fact that you are planning to move the house back. I would like to point out that if you instead demolish the house and built one 100 feet back from the bank, we would not even have to discuss this as a Conservation Commission. However, you're cutting a swath that's approximately 100 feet by about 60 feet wide. And if you wanted a view corridor in your so-called new house, we normally don't permit them for other than 15 to 20 feet. You're asking for at least 60 feet. You are cutting a swath that will act like a wind tunnel coming in from the bank right up to the house. It also has the possibility of damaging trees and other vegetation that's on each side. You, in your program, aren't planning to replace any of the vegetation other than with low-lying vegetation. And we have 21 to 23 trees, which are pines, oaks, different kinds of oaks, cedar, cherry, and so on. And all you're proposing are low growing. We have flowering, the fruit bearing, we have canopy trees, and the habitat, it provides habitat for birds and insects. I'd recommend planting trees. I'd consider them, I would possibly consider them being planted on the sides of the area. It definitely would decrease your 60 or more foot wide view area. And I would like to see those included in a plan, not having something that doesn't exist there now put in its place because you're moving the house back. Thank you.
Joanne?
Hi, yeah, thank you. Interesting what Janet was saying, but what I wanted to say is that thinking about what Karen's comment that this would end up being an isolated habitat, and then Mike's comments as well, it seems to me like what I would like to see is, I don't necessarily have a problem with the planting plan per se. But what I would have some concerns about is moving forward, how we manage what happens next. So if the forest is going to take back over, the pines are going to come back in. It sounds like they already were with the septic tank being replaced. Seems like we would need to let that happen. And so what I would want to see is moving forward with the conditions that the natural habitat be allowed to succeed and regenerate in the way it wants to. So then we get to the issue of the vista pruning or having a view corridor. And I think that for me, that's where we need to discuss what happens. Because I think from my perspective, yes, it's windy. Yes, this could be an interesting small piece of habitat. But I think we should let nature do what nature does in this particular instance. You know, I was thinking about what Joanna said previously, where I asked her about the mowing and why do you do the mowing? And the mowing is important because it creates this special habitat. And it seems like that's not the best idea here because it's so isolated, as Karen said. So not to loop myself all the way back around to what I've already said, I think for me, if you want to use this planting plan, it would be fine, but we should let nature take its course and be very conservative if we're doing anything like putting in the ability to prune or create a view corridor for the future. Thanks.
Okay, I'm going to call on Mary Goodyear. And then Mike, you still want to add some more stuff after that? Okay. You need to unmute, Mary. Unmute. Sorry.
Done. I'm sorry, my picture's not there. For some reason, I managed to make it disappear and can't find it again.
Well, we can see you though.
Oh, okay. The only reason that the trees exist behind the house, those that need to be cut to move the house back, the only reason they're there is because they've been protected from that strong west wind. I'm 73 years old. I have been at that house since I was 3 years old. We used to have a very long path that came up from the bank to the house, and now it's dwindled from probably 200 feet to 15 feet. All of the trees that had been there over the years had succumbed to the wind and the buffering or the buffeting in salt over the years. So replanting trees or replacing trees that have been protected behind the house are not going to do anything if we have to replant trees in front of the house. And as Teresa had mentioned at the last meeting, the weather and the wind is remarkably different in the parking area than it is in front of the house. It's just brutal there. I am there in the fall and in the spring, and the house just shakes from the wind. You know, replanting trees is not going to work. However, to the north of us, for at least 100 yards along that bank and further back, is a very, very dense shrubby variety of plants. I can't tell you, I'm sure Teresa would be able to tell you better, or Caitlin, exactly what species those are. But they hold the sand and block the wind tremendously. And having that kind of buffer would be remarkable, and it would allow any vegetation behind those to regenerate, because it will afford the protection that's not going to be there once the house is gone. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, your hand's still up. Did you want to? You're muted.
Okay, I just want to reiterate what everybody else has said. I think that we do need trees, or we need to let it regenerate. And I believe, yes, it's windy, but I believe there are ways that you can plant trees in groups so they will protect each other. We mandate this on houses up and down Eastham. Once they open up the coastal bank, they have to replant it. I'd like to see some cedars go back too. They're kind of rare out there. But again, I think we need to have trees go in. Think this plan has to be updated. And if you want a view corridor, we can work on a view corridor. But that's where I stand right now.
Yeah, so taking, anybody else from the commission want to be heard on this? So it seems to me that three overarching situations here. There's the trees coming out and no canopy trees being replaced. There's the sandplain heathland type community plants that you want to put in that would require some management over time that really hasn't been discussed. And then there is the view corridor issue. So I don't think that anybody would be opposed to establishing some kind of view corridor from the house down to the bay, because that is something that we do all the time with properties. But I don't think overall that I'm hearing a lot of support for this low-lying sandplain heathland when the other species around that are not that community overall, and that it's likely that a successional forest will come back in here. So I wonder what's the sense of putting those plants in with it and then having to manage that if it's all going to come back and be some kind of successional forest. Anyway, which is what the seed bed from the house that's being soil from the house that's being used as fill would tend to indicate as well. So, Caitlin?
Yes, I think just to speak to that again, the ultimate goal is not to maintain it as a sandplain heathland in perpetuity. It is to replant it as sandplain heathland because that is what is existing on site on the north side of the house, where it's very wind prone and sandy and salty. We're wanting to replant something immediately after the house is moved to stabilize the site. As Teresa said, we believe these species will do the best job at that. The maintenance would not be use of fire or anything. It would be allowed to succeed to what it will become. We anticipate it will not become a heavily canopied site again because of the wind. And yeah, Teresa can speak more to that. But we're thinking about more immediately how to restore the site as best we can with the most appropriate vegetation that we can, using what's reflected on site.
Okay, but it does sound like the commission would like to see some more canopy going back in.
Which we'd be glad to replant small container pot-sized trees at their smallest size to give them the best chance of survival in that harsh condition.
So, thoughts on that from the commission? From the commission first, Greg?
Yeah, I actually live on the same kind of bank, and I have to agree that planting larger trees initially will not survive. I mean, it's just an incredible environment. I live here full time, and I'm here all year long, and I'll tell you, it's really rough with the winds. I think that my observation has been on my own property is that the smaller trees that embed themselves in a associate, get adjusted over time seem to do and survive, whereas the larger trees that have been planted in the past don't. So I agree that I think that if you're going to replant here, that smaller size trees and then should be used and then allowed to grow, and we can manage them in the future.
Okay. Mary, you'd like to be heard again?
Got something I want to say too when we get it.
Oh, well, let me let Chuck go first. And then Mary, if you want to add anything. Your hand's still up, so I'm assuming you had something. Go ahead, Chuck.
I agree with Greg. I understand that everybody interprets this as a successional type forest. And if you were standing at the center of the Cape, looking outward, that would be a valid consideration. But we are talking about an eroding coastal bank. And the successional forest that's there is all somewhere else now, turning into peat because it's fallen off of the bank and down into the water. And I agree completely that if you try and put canopy trees into this area, you're going to end up with, about the time they're 7 or 8 feet high, a 45 degree rake to the trunks. You're not going to get a straight tree out of there anywhere. I think that they have chosen exactly the kind of plants that you want to put into that kind of condition. The kind of thing that you see up in Truro, the moors, where the wind is blowing really hard all the time and you got to walk miles before you're going to find a pine tree. They've selected plants that grow to a well-known modest height that are very good at retaining sand and bank characteristics and quality and stuff like that. And they don't have to be pruned hardly ever. Beech plums may get 10, 12 feet high, but most of the time, the areas like this, they're 7, 8 feet high tops. I think it's a reasonable thing to suggest. And I also disagree with the suggestion that we always restrict vistas to 10 or 15 feet. That's arbitrary and that's kind of capricious.
What's he got?
That's it.
Any other? Okay. Greg, did you want to speak again? And then Janet?
No, other than to say that planting large trees in this environment is a very difficult thing to do. I mean, even the ones that I have, anything that's gotten to any height, the part that faces the ocean, the wind is gone. I mean, it's like half a tree. So it's very difficult. So if you're going to put trees in, then you need to put them in when they're small and they can really establish themselves. And then the wind will control their height.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that applies in any planting. We don't generally go for giant trees to replace trees that have been taken out during a project. It's usually smaller trees that tend to establish better over time. So I don't see what that issue is. Janet?
I like Mike's idea of grouping trees. That sounds very wise. And I like the idea of smaller trees. I think it is difficult to put large trees in an area where there are strong winds. And I'm not a tree expert by any means, but I happened to be at Marconi Beach a week ago. And if you drive up to the end of the parking lot, right by the beach, there is a 10 to 15 to 20 foot cedar all alone at the end of the parking lot. So trees can grow in areas where there's very strong wind. We have to be probably more careful about the size that we plant, and probably a grouping would be wise because the area you're going to take the vegetation out of is so wide. As I said, it's about over 100 feet by about 60 feet at least. Thank you.
Looks like Mike, your hand still up. Did you? If you're not wanting to speak again, could you please click on your button to lower your hand? Thank you.
No, I was just going to say that I don't think anybody talked about putting in giant trees until later. We just want trees. I can live with smaller trees and a management plan that doesn't keep going in here and cutting all the successional trees. And this idea that it's too windy, the entire bank where there is no house is full of pitch pine, oak trees. So if you just let it go, it'll come back. That's all.
Okay. Teresa?
Yeah, I just want to point out that I almost feel like this project is being confused with the project that was presented previously with the meadow mowing and the maintenance of a certain plant
Yeah.
community. What we're trying to do here is not establish, we're trying to take an opportunity, yes, to establish vegetation that we think is appropriate for the site and is appropriate for the site conditions. But we have a 3-year management plan that we've submitted to this commission that does not request ongoing maintenance in this area. The only thing that we do have to be careful of in this area, and the reason for the 3-year maintenance, is there is a number of invasive vegetation, or there's certain invasive vegetation, including bittersweet, et cetera. We're not proposing to manage that, but we do not want that to take over the area where the house is being removed. So we do include a 3-year management plan that will allow us to ensure that the plants get reestablished that we're planting, that we'll be able to remove any things like bittersweet, that we'll be able to pull it immediately if we see it moving into this area, and that we will be able to allow this as long-term succession. So I really do want to make it clear to the commission that we have submitted a 3-year management plan, which is basically set on monitoring and maintenance, and it includes submitting monitoring reports to this commission on a yearly basis of exactly what's happening in this site. So I just want to make it, I want to make sure that this is not considered an ongoing long-term management project. This is a short-term reestablishing, immediately stabilizing and reestablishing the area where the house is being removed from to be moved back, and then setting it up with a plant community that has just a chance of surviving under the site conditions in this particular area, and then seeing what moves back in on its own. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear, because I keep hearing long-term management, and that is not what we're requesting here. And of course, if vista management or continued vista pruning or anything like that were to be proposed after this order of conditions has received a certificate of compliance, we would come back to the commission with a vista management plan. We're not proposing a vista management plan. I do want to be open and honest with the commission that the homeowners would like to maintain a view to the water. They're moving their house back, past the 100-foot buffer zone. So I'm just being open and clear and honest and transparent. But this is, of course, if there's ongoing vista management that needs to take place, it would only be done with permission from this commission.
Well, I think you're the one who set us on this course by talking about establishing a sandplain heathland community, and talking about habitat, and talking about threatened species and critical management areas like sparrows and so on. And we both know that this area is too small to have much impact on threatened species. So once you started talking about the sandplain heathland, instead of talking about, hey, we're putting in plants that we think will work in this area, that sets certain expectations. And then looking at your 3-year management plan, it is almost entirely focused on management of invasive species and multiple applications of herbicides, and not all that focused on any other plant management during the 3 years. So I'd like to see a little more focus away from this as a sandplain heathland, and more of a management and vegetative plan that talks about species that you feel are appropriate for this area. Talk about, we all think that there's going to be succession moving in here. We'd like to see some level of trees planted back, and nobody talked about giant trees going in but you. And so I think we'd like to see some more of that. And we quite understand that people want to maintain their view here, but we also have to replant this area in a way that is putting back some of the habitat that you were taking out through the canopy trees, and also providing something that will add stability over time as the erosion continues. And I think that that's where the focus is, but it isn't really in your management plan.
Understood.
So
And yes, and I do want to apologize. I keep hearing you say canopy trees. So when I hear the commission say you want canopy trees put back, I'm presuming you mean you want larger caliper trees to provide some instant canopy. So there might be a communication
okay.
issue there.
And,
Yep.
and we never actually, I don't think, have asked for that in any of our plans, because we understand that the larger the tree you put in, the less likely it is to survive, that it has transplant shock issues and other things that the smaller trees don't have. So we understand that. So when we talk about canopy trees, we're talking end result.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we were saying we were using the same language to talk about the same thing. That's all. Thank you for clarifying.
So to kind of sum this up, nobody has any issues with the house being moved. It's just what's going back in there, how much maintenance it's going to need over time, and to get away from the idea that this is a sand plain heathland restoration, that you want to put plants in that are suitable for the environment. We'd like to see more of a mix that includes canopy kinds of trees and not just low shrubs and such. I think I summed it up for everybody. And we do recognize also that this is something of a harsh environment, so that's aware, but there's going to be continued erosion here. There's going to be other issues, and we want to make sure that when you're done with this and you're doing a lot of work and you're doing some work on the coastal bank, you're pulling out a foundation, and we want to make sure that when you're done that there's a stable environment there, and that it brings back in at least some of the elements you're removing in order to remove the house. Right.
I'd like to make a comment, if I could, please. It's Mary.
Okay, go ahead.
It was mentioned a little bit earlier, I think Janet mentioned that, yes, at Marconi, there is a larger cedar tree there. And if you look up and down the beaches, on the banks, up and down the Cape, on the ocean side and the bay side, yes, you're going to see much bigger trees near the bank. And the reason they're there is not because they were planted there, but because they're remnants of the forest that they were once part of that helped shelter them. So still, I believe strongly that planting trees near the bank is not going to work. They don't have the proper protection from the elements as they once did when they first grew in a forest. That's it.
Well, that goes back to Mike's thought about grouping them, that they provide their own protection. If you group them, that some are more likely to survive.
If you have 5 or 6 foot, sorry, if you have 5 or 6 or 7 foot trees, they're not going to provide each other very much protection, in my view.
Well, I would beg to differ, but so I think we're looking at asking you to come back with a revised plan.
Okay.
Would that?
Sorry, I go ahead, Cece.
Yes, that's fine. Happy to come back with the revisions that you've asked us for. And yeah.
Okay, so our next meeting is March 25th. Would that work?
Yes.
Stephanie, you wanted to add something?
Yes, one other revision that we made on both the site plan and the Blue Flags plan has to do with the beach access stairs. And originally it was kind of presented that we wanted to replace them. But after taking another look and giving it more thought, we would like permission to repair them. There are treads and individual pieces that may need replacement. So if I thought if we could talk about that before continuing.
You're right. I lost track of that in all the other conversation. So you're proposing just to replace what is there already and in kind.
Yes, and not the entire structure, just the individual pieces. Like I said, a tread here or there. There is one post that, I don't know, is it broken or just not extending to the ground? But just, and perhaps arranging an on-site meeting with with Alex prior to doing it, just to sort of lay out at the time what needs to be replaced and what's intended to be done.
Okay, yeah, go ahead, Alex.
And I think you're proposing the decking as well, is that right?
On the top landing, yes.
Yeah, the top there, yeah, because that decking was in pretty rough shape.
So any comments from the commission on that? Janet?
Yes, I did have a question at the last meeting about the stairs and the deck. I'm tending to think it would be acceptable to have Alex go out, as long as they're not planning to remove the stairway and replace it. Then we would want drawings and specifications. But if you're just replacing treads on the platform and the stairway, I would feel comfortable with having Alex go out if everyone else is comfortable.
Mike?
Janet just took what I was going to say. I agree 100%. I was out there. It does need work. And as long as Alex goes and works with him, I'm fine with it.
Okay, anybody have any issue with that? Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so if we might have a motion to continue this until March 25th. Oh, Alex, did you have something else you wanted to say before we do that?
Can we just briefly recap what changes we want for the mitigation plan? And we had a spirited discussion here tonight, but I just want to make sure that it's clear for the applicant, when they come to our next meeting, what the commission is requesting.
Okay. I thought I summed that up already, but I'll try again. So we want the planting area not to focus on the sand plain, but to focus on plants that are suitable and will survive in the environment. We also want you to include some canopy trees in there, and to include in your 3-year plan the management of that, and not just the management of invasives. I think is basically what it boils down to. Because we want something that is robust and stable. We have eroding conditions there, and we want something that will survive without a lot of management coming in and out over the years.
Understood.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now if we could have a motion to continue this to March 25th.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, Greg?
Yes.
Joanne?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yep.
Janet?
Yes,
Mike?
Yes.
And me, I'm a yes. Okay, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Let me find my agenda now. Okay, next we have, so if nobody objects, I'm going to move up our discussion from other discussion to talk about temporary access for rust sand bloom, instead of leaving it till the very end as we have Nick sitting in town hall. That's all right with everybody.
Nick's Chris Manovich here. I'm just the right-hand man of the Russell Sandbloom, the guy who owned the farm. Do you want me started, or that we just looking for a basically temporary access? Because I talked to Alex today about it. Russell and I work on the talking to the upland owners about the permanent access, and 2 of them come back today with a no. Unfortunately, oysters are sitting in the pit. We call that pit, or whatever you want to call it. That's all winter hibernation, and it's already 57 degrees outside, like today was it, and they are they have to be back in the water. Meaning, like, if we wait for too long, they're not going to survive. The entire farm is going to die off. Meaning, like, they have to be urgently put back in the water. And we are looking for, I'm sorry, I'm speaking on behalf of Russell because he's really apologized he couldn't make it tonight. So we're just looking for some temporary access for a couple days that we put the equipment back in the water. And I have another solution that my Conservation Commission might gonna agree with me or listen to the idea I come up with colonial laws that you actually can drive straight on the town lane, same like down here in the first encounter. That's what is basically 100 roads, what is 1650 feet, and take a right on the farm, so you're not gonna occupy any of the property that's upland owners own it. It's a town on it, so you need town permission to drive there. I walked their area, it's not muddy, it's pretty safe to drive. No problem to drive there, and you avoiding any upland owner. I have here, I printed out today. I was working some due diligence because I got the last phone call from Alex about these people, and it's a low water line is way far away. I don't know if you can see it, but basically it's just behind the farm is basically that 100 rods, what is like, actually you can drive it there. Instead of occupied any private owner's land while they owning it, we can go straight from the beach, public access, and take a right turn, a 60-50, and be on the farm. That's how I came. This is a solution I came up. I talked to Russell just to prove it because it's his farm. I'm just trying to make us. I know this dragging for too long. We're working really hard to get this done, but it's hard to get it done. It was, I worked with him for 15 years, and it's also my livelihood. So we kind of try to see what is, if the commission can help us just to get through this and get the stuff in the water for a couple of days, and then see if is this going to work. We have to do, obviously, monitoring, go through the Division of Marine Fishery, also everything, Audubon and everybody else. And we're willing to put the work. We just need some help as well. Right now, we're in a really pinch time because it's really necessary time to put the stuff back, or we're going to lose entire farm. Thank you.
Right. And I know the commission has been really sympathetic, but this has been going on for a very long time, and
I know.
we'll need to kind of finish it up. But I do want to mention that the town has a bylaw that requires, if you want to drive on the beach, that you have to get permission from the select board. So even if we were to give permission tonight, that we take some sympathy on you. Now, we can't do it under an official emergency kind of order, because what you need to do here is not a public safety issue or an environmental hazard issue. So it doesn't fall under those allowances. So it's really would be the commission taking pity on you. But you still would have to get approval from the select board in order to drive on the beach before you would be allowed to do that, because the town did pass a bylaw on that.
Yes. I'm sorry.
So you did get permission to go out and pull your gear off of out of the water, but that was an emergency order because the gear would be an environmental hazard, so on. So I'm just saying that, and then I'm gonna let the commission talk about it, and I'm gonna sit back and listen and see what they want to do.
I'm sorry interrupted, but the thing is, it's really, this is also emergency, not environmental. It's mean like we have 650,000 oysters, babies, and the mature oysters, inch and a half sitting it. If we wait for another meeting, we're willing to work with the, to get a, like, permanently access, as I'm gonna prove this, show to the select board, and Russ knows about it. We just need, let's say, a couple days, same like we had in the winter time before the ice, just to put everything back. We'll be as fast as we can. We gonna work as hard as we can, double tides if you have to, just to, we don't lose the farm. That's all. Thank you.
Right, and I think we're all sympathetic of the
No, I appreciate
economic-
it. I'm really sorry that's taken this too long. I am, I'm right-hand man. I'm doing the paperwork for him, like other paperwork. I wasn't involved because it's not my farm, but I work there. I make my livelihood there. So I'm just on behalf of Russell tonight, and I'm gonna try to work with him as fast as we can to get this straight away, like right away.
Okay, so let me hear what somebody from the commission, what your thoughts are. Who wants to start off? Joanne?
See my eyebrows go up. Actually, I was wondering, and maybe Alex remembers this, or you remember this, Karen. I know we had been looking at kind of what species are in the area and assessing, and trying to make sure that any access would not cause those kinds of environmental concerns. So wanted to see if Alex has those notes, maybe we could refresh our memory on that. And then the second part would be, sorry, I am such a novice when it comes to knowing about shellfishing, but is there I understand the idea of driving out and over to your grant, but is there a reason it can't be accessed by boat or by the water route? Sorry if that's a dumb question. If we can answer those questions, I mean, like, from a sympathetic perspective, I would support, as long as we're not disturbing species and as long as the select board also supported. But if we're like kind of giving our vote of support for the select board to make their decision, you know, I'd be okay.
So the species we were concerned about were horseshoe crabs spawning and piping plovers and terns nesting. So we're outside of both of those seasons for the moment. The water's still too cold for horseshoe crabs, and it's not a bird season, spawning season. Alex?
Yeah, MISA did issue a time of year restriction with this, and as Karen mentioned, you know, we're still outside of that window.
So as to the boat question.
Oh, it's, I'm sorry, that's for me. Yes, sorry about that. So it could be possibly done, but the problem is we have to basically, we cannot do it as fast as we can do with the trucks, because we have to go all the way in Wealthy Harbor. That's also the problem, because it's implement the conflict with the DMF, that's you basically launching the boat in the other harbor that's not your harbor. You have to go to Rock Harbor, but Rock Harbor is way harder. And then the other problem is if you have to have decent weather, meaning like it could be done, but it could be also hazard if it's the windy days that you don't have, let's say, 3 days in a row doing it, because you can't just bring entire farm back. We're talking about, you know, racks, cages. You can't load it up that easy, and that's the problem as well. So you need, if you have a perfect, let's say, perfect weather, yes, it could be done. But if you have days that is like last week, you couldn't drive the boat. It's really howling and it's like 40, 50 miles an hour wind gust. It's also a problem. But you also need permission from DMF that you're launching in the other town product. And that's another thing as well.
That makes sense. They don't want maybe cross-contamination.
Yes.
or
Exactly.
Okay, so you're really looking for a period of time when we'd allow you to have
So we actually look, I'm sorry, interrupted again. We're looking, let's say, maximum, I will say 4 or 5 days. I will call all my friends, all the people that like I know to help us out, set it up, and I will notice Alex as soon as we get there, as soon as we finish it. We're gonna work overtime as fast as we can. We don't wanna interrupt anybody. We just wanna put that back, and then Russ and I gonna get to the select board, Try to get that access, that like low mean water that should be accessible, like go straight 1650, take the right turn, and it's like, that's the town access, same like they did in the first encounter, they have the town access. I told that because I was reading about this, and I think that's the best case that we have it, especially with Alex today when he called me and said 2 upland owners say no, we will be in conflict of interest, meaning next winter we'll have another problem, pulling the farm back. So that way, if we can grant it that permit access for the off-season, when we taking the gear off and taking the put-em gear back, that'd be great.
Okay, well, I would hope we would have it fully permitted before next winter. And,
Yes, I am too.
In the next month or two or
I'm
so,
hoping to.
but
I'm hoping to.
Because it's doing you guys no benefit in not trying to push this along a little bit faster on your end. So
Yes.
having said that, let me see what, so vote is not feasible. Let's hear, Greg, go ahead.
Just a quick question. Under the colonial law, aren't you as a fisherman allowed to drive on between the high tide and the low tide as long as you're working on fishing?
Yes,
Isn't that an automatic right?
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Greg, but that's the part of section 1, say that you can basically navigate it free fishing and fouling and passing freely over it and through the water. So I don't know if it's that part of that privately, if they own the part of the front of it. That's also is that possible that we did use that road for 20 years and now all suddenly we can't use it anymore.
Okay. Okay, that's a discussion for another time.
No, I'm sorry.
Right
Yeah.
now we're trying to, okay. Yeah, and I'm talking to Greg as well. So that's a discussion for when we have the NOI itself back in front of us. And right now we're just looking at whether we're willing to give permission for access in the meantime. So.
Why don't we do that? If anybody opposes, is there anybody on the commission that opposes giving them temporary permission?
No.
Okay.
I do have one question. How many vehicles?
Whatever commission said. We can do 2 vehicles, we can do 1 vehicle. But we will park the other vehicle or the 3rd vehicle on the beach because we are need to have the tow equipment, jack, everything with us. We always have tow ropes, everything is there because the soft is in. We put our pressure low tire on the 10 PCI, so we roll off the beach easy. We don't disturb it anything. We bring the rakes with us. Mike, every time we come back and finish it, I don't like to leave behind it. We rake behind the tracks. It's not that I'm hiding something. I just don't want people who walk on the beach looking like the tracks behind us. It's just kind of protect the environment because I live off that water as well.
Hillary, you want to give us the benefit of your experience?
Yeah, I guess I just would caution the commission that without the select board's approval, our approval only goes so far because we don't have jurisdiction to be the end all be all decision makers for beach access. That's part 1. Part 2 is I would really weigh heavily on Stephanie or someone else from the Natural Resource Department giving us some information on this new access because we have not looked at this access. It's not what we were contemplating on our initial application. So I would want to make sure there's no shellfish out there on the path or whatever else may be going on there. So we really want to hear from Natural Resources also.
Right. So we did mention earlier about select board approval being required. When we first looked at this project, I guess during the violation stage earlier, and then at the beginning, we talked about the different access routes, and I think we decided that the sand path to the groin and then out was the most appropriate. So we did look at this one, and we kind of rejected it early on. But you're right, we need to ask Stephanie or the Shellfish Department to weigh in, and then there's the question of them also weighing in on the vehicles that are going to be used to make sure that they're appropriate in how we condition that for other access. as well, I think. That sound about right, Hillary?
Yeah, and then my final thought would be, we would want to review the map for the ownership and make sure it is indeed town of Eastham land that they would be traversing the whole way. So sometimes folks own to mean low water. I don't know where the neighbors own to, but if their response was no, we need to make sure that they're not traversing on that land. So I think we need a clearly defined map showing us exactly where you'll be traversing. And then that would somehow need to be marked in the field also, or in the sea, so that we can make sure you're staying within those boundaries.
Yeah, that's, I'm sorry, Hillary. Yes, absolutely. We can, basically, the road, I mean, this is the new, I'm just doing something due diligent. That's the new road because that's basically, will be marked with the buoys. But that's also could be a problem because we have multiple boats around there that's like cruising around, and I don't want people be mad that we put so many buoys
understood.
out that we go, but we can do something different, like the rocks, the bigger rocks that we can put down the road. So when you
so we're going to have to discuss
Yes,
that when we get
yes,
back to the NOI
yes.
discussion. We're focusing on this
temporary,
matter.
we're just looking temporary access to put basically the oysters in the water before they die. That's all,
So it does sound like Hillary's suggesting, and I think she's probably right, that we need to get more input before we can say okay on this.
Yeah, I think in the least, I would want to look at a plan of land to understand exactly where you intend to traverse. Number two, we need to talk to the Natural Resource Department to make sure they're on board. And then number three, you need the select board permission. So I'm not sure when the select board meets again, but even if we were to grant
they meet on the 17th.
On the 17th, so next week? No, 2 weeks.
Yeah, next week.
So I mean, and I don't know, you might want to have a conversation with Jackie and see if she has any pull there, because that's, a solid week away at least. I don't know what the time frame is.
Well, to get on the agenda for the select board gets published on Thursday. I'm just mentioning. So that's a short time frame there. So even if we, so it does sound like that makes a lot of sense that we have that input. So that doesn't mean you guys can't decide, the commission can't decide to go ahead and do it anyway, but I'm going to lean in with Hillary on this one.
How long before the oysters die?
Excuse me?
How long before the oysters die?
They already, to be honest, sir, they already, once you smell it, you open the pit and you start smelling it, they have to go back in the water, start pumping, or 57 degrees and it's gonna be solid 50s. Once they wake up from hibernation, I can't tell you that. That's the question. We rush it to put them back, so it's just, that's why I come here to ask for, I know we're asking for too much, and I know it's too much, dragging this too long, and I'm really sorry for that, but I can't tell you. We might gonna lose half of it by the time we got a grant.
I really wish you had come and asked for this earlier, because you knew this was coming up, that there would be you should have anticipated the issue, I think. So
we just got it today.
We're here now.
No, I know, but I just got it today from Alex that Russell tried to get these plan owners, and literally today he called me and two of them said no.
Right, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying is that it got continued from the last meeting to March 25th. So the meeting 2 weeks ago to March 25th, and we're now here talking to you in between that. So back in February, when we continued it to March 25th, and maybe it's not right of me to bring this up, but when it got continued in February to March 25th, surely there could have been some anticipation that you would not have a permit in time to get your oysters out safely. And that could have been discussed at that.
The thing is,
Instead-
I know, we expected it's like, we didn't have a problem we were thinking the plant owner is not gonna have a problem with us driving there just for a quick time. We were thinking.
Yeah, but it's still asking for an emergency outside of permitting allowance here, is what I'm saying. So anyway, Joanne, you had your hand up still?
Yes, so I like everything Hillary said, but I think we should not let all these steps get in the way, because what we're really here to decide is the commission's business. So I think it sounds like we want to support, local industry, and that we could approve this contingent on Stephanie being involved in whatever comes next. And, the comment that, as Hillary said, the property lines need to be checked. I think neither of those are really our business specifically. If we know, like our condition is Stephanie's involved, right? And so we can say, like, it sounds like there's no concern about the species or the time limitation. It's within the period of time. We probably should note what that time is, so we don't go past that. And then contingent on Stephanie being involved and the property lines being checked, that we're okay with that. So I might, unless, I know Alex had his hand up, and so unless there are other things that you guys see we need to discuss, I think, like, let's send him on to the next thing with our conditions on the list, so he can, have a chance at getting this through.
So does Alex want to go first, or should we let Mike talk?
Mike can go. Thank you.
Okay.
I just want to back Joanne. I agree 100% with Joanne said. I think we should do conservation stuff, and I personally don't have a problem with this as long as Stephanie goes and they check the route, and I think we should vote on it to show our support when he goes to the select board. That's all.
Greg and then Alex.
I just want to say I totally agree with Mike and Joanne on this. We need to support our fishermen and do whatever we can to get this out, get their seed out into the bay. Thank you.
Alex, you go, and then Janet.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that, we would have been in the same situation, even if property owners did allow you to traverse their property, because we still don't have a permit in place. So us being here isn't a result of the property owners denying access. It's that there still is no permit in place, so you wouldn't have been able to do it anyways. So I just kind of want to make that clear, kind of like what Karen said before, is that we do wish that there was a little bit more forward thinking with this process. And if you knew that this was going to be an issue, we wish that you would have come to us sooner, so that we're not, making these decisions at the last minute like this.
Okay, so if we decide to vote to allow this, we would want conditions that say that Stephanie or the Shellfish Department need to review the site before any access is taken, that the and also confirm that the vehicles are suitable, and that the select board would have to do their sign off, and property lines would get looked at. And if any of those things do not work out, then it looks like you're gonna get stuck. Does that sound about right? And I'm going to say personally that if I vote yes now, I'm not going to vote yes on any other emergency orders to allow access, because I need you guys to finish up and get permitted properly. It's been going on for a very long time, and I think we might give you a break this time, but I'd be disinclined to give you another one.
Thank you. I gonna work because I wasn't involved that much with that. I'm part of the. I'm not trying to make excuses.
Yeah.
I'm just.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna work really hard to get it. I'm the guy who run the farm, run the
Yeah.
paperwork. I wasn't part of this paperwork. I'm
Right. So-
involved in it, but I'm more the guy on the field, not a paperwork guy.
Well, maybe you can also stress to Russ that this is,
I will. Trust me. I'm really.
we need to get this done. It's to his benefit to get it finished.
Yes, I know, and we will definitely, as soon as I finish the meeting, I will talk, and this week, I'm gonna call Stephanie tomorrow and figure it out with the select boards as fast as we can to be put back on the agenda for this, and bring her on the site as fast as we can, as her schedule allowed, to see how we can proceed with this.
Okay, so it looks like we, I guess, need a motion to approve this with the conditions that the Shellfish Department needs to examine and approve the route, that the property lines need to be established so that you're keeping to town-owned property, and that the trucks are approved, and that the select board signs off.
Yes.
But that our part is that we'll give you permission.
Like procedurally, is this our place to vote to approve, or are we just voting to not object, or like, how does that?
Well, we'd have to vote to approve to let him drive out there, I would think, because.
Okay, so we're voting on, okay.
So we're voting contingent on the fact that the route gets established through the property lines, that it is public property, because we can't permit access to somebody else's private property without their permission, that the trucks are properly configured as we've done with other with the Boat Meadow folks. And that the select board, we do have a bylaw that requires the select board to sign off on beach access for trucks. So we would be approving, and we also need to consider that this would be a short-term period. I would think we wouldn't want to give an indefinite timeframe here. Is there something you want to talk to, Alex?
Yeah, just with the prior administrative reviews that have been granted for temporary access, I do specify dates in the condition. So speaking to your comment, Karen.
Right, so we would want to, we've heard two days, and we've heard 5 days, and it would have to be weather dependent,
So I'm sorry, interrupted, but yes, we'll be definitely. My other question is, so basically, if I understand well, you're gonna grant it, I mean, help us out, but does that mean we have to wait until the 17th, the select board, to approve it for the driving, or we can drive it before that, or we have to wait for the meeting?
No, the select board needs to sign off on
Okay.
allowing you to drive on the town beach.
Okay, I understand, yeah. So basically, as soon as we got approved, I'm hoping we will definitely be in contact with Alex and Stephanie and exactly tell them time frame what we need to be done.
Right, so I would suggest that tomorrow, the very first thing you do is get in touch with Alex and Stephanie, and you probably should also talk to Jackie Beebe, the town manager, about getting on the select board agenda for Monday, because you have a very limited time to do that. The agenda has to be posted.
48 hours.
Right, so that is Thursday that it gets posted. So that is your deadline.
Yes, we'll definitely, we're gonna do tomorrow, yes.
Okay, so, and then how much time would we allow after that? Would we give them a period of 5 days, a week to allow for weather?
If I can speak, it will
Yes,
be,
please.
so I'm just gonna take a look one thing before I can tell you exactly, because if we get allowed on Monday, what's the 17th, we have pretty good tides all the way until the 19th. What's like 1, 2, 3 days, maybe 2 days. It depends of the wind. If it's blowing, it's a problem. But then we're getting in trouble. So we'll appreciate it if it's going to be a 6 days or 7 whole week, because we're coming up on the 1-1, 1-4 tides. I don't know if you're familiar with that. 204, 2-2, 2-4 tides. You can't drive it there. Actually, you park your truck on the beach and float everything back. So in the first couple,
I'm very familiar. Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to make sure the 2-0 tides, you can do a lot of stuff on it. That's the thing. So it will be, if it's possible, a week, that'll be great.
Does that seem okay with you? You can just nod your heads or raise your hands. Okay. Greg? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. So if we could have a vote, a motion to allow this, approve this, with the conditions of Shellfish Department walking the route, determining that the route would be within town property only, that the trucks are adequately conditioned for such work, that the select board approve, and that they would have from, I guess we'll say from a week starting on the 18th of March.
Provided the select board approve it on that date, right?
Providing the select board approves on the 17th, and if they don't meet for another 2 weeks or more. So I'm not exactly sure when the next select board meeting is. After that, I think it's 2 weeks. So that would put them, yeah. That would probably get into dangerous territory for the oysters.
I mean,
but we could say, starting the day after the select board would approve, that they could have a period of a week.
Provided it's still within the.
Provided that it's still before the time restrictions placed by NHESP.
So moved.
But if we're getting into April, then the oysters are probably done for by then anyway. So okay,
Yes.
so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, Mike,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
and I'm a yes.
thank you. Thank you. We will work really hard to get, and we'll be done with this. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. What's next? Oh, Janet, you are leaving? Okay. Janet is signing off, and okay. Good night. Do we still have a quorum after she leaves? So next on the agenda, we have minutes, February 11th, 2025. Everybody okay with those minutes? Okay, if somebody can make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve the minutes.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Greg,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Chuck,
Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. And then we have violation, 31 Longstreet Lane. So, Alex, do you want to start us off?
Yes, thank you, Karen. Just get my timeline here. Several weeks back, staff observed some work happening within the buffer zone at 31 Long Street. And, upon getting back to the office and doing some research, it was evident that permitting was not in place. So I sent the property owner a letter, and the property owner, Mr. Harold, he's on the call with us tonight, was very prompt, with getting back to me, and we've met on the site, and we've communicated about the work that's been completed and the work that Mr. Harold would like to continue to do on the property. And so I've invited Mr. Harold to the meeting tonight to kind of get a gauge from the commission as to, what kind of permitting that they would like to see for the work that's been done and the work that Mr. Harold is proposing to do on the sites. My observations are that the work thus far has, more or less been in compliance with what the commission has previously approved. But needless to say, where that work does need to be permitted from Conscom. Mr. Harold's done a one-to-one replacement of some steps and a retaining wall and some modest cobblestone work in his driveway. And so we have Mr. Harold here. He could speak more to this, and I'd like to thank him for joining us tonight at this meeting.
Hi, my name is Harold Tully. I just want to introduce myself. So to give you a little bit background, we bought this place 10 years ago. We lived overseas in Germany, and we finally moved to Eastham in October. And in November, our well dried out, so no water. So we had Atlantic Well Drilling come here to do a new well for us within the, I guess, 3 feet what it's supposed to be. And while there are a few thoughts about it, I only have the driveway for further work, which means including, I may have to move my septic tank sooner or later, and the only place it can go would be the driveway. I'm thinking of going geothermal for a heating system. So the only place that could go is driveway again. So after all, the well wasn't at the place where it's supposed to be. It was in a different spot, and we had to dig out many feet of sand to find it. So what is done, a new well is in place. And I had to get part of the retaining wall, which was there already. But it was there for, I would say, more than 30 years. So you can figure it was kind of rotted out part-wise. And I replaced it. So the fact that I'm not really familiar with all the rules and regulation here in the United States, I'm sorry to say that I grew up in Germany. I thought, well, if I replace an existing retaining wall, I don't need a permission for that. Not that I want to violate the rules or whatever, but I didn't know. So I replaced the retaining wall, and I have cobblestones in my driveway because I'm having the problem that the water, when you're familiar with the road, with Longstreet Lane, the house where I live, it's, how do I say that? The water comes down the road and it flushes right into my driveway and goes right into my basement, which is not very nice. That's why I have a partwise cobblestone laid out there, but they just lay in sand. There's nothing underneath it. So, and this is what I've done. I just replaced the retaining wall 1-to-1. And of course I laid some cobblestones, but they lay in there in sand. So there's nothing underneath. So if any water comes, it'll go right through. Mm-hmm. So speaking of how do I say that? Environment. I don't think I didn't follow the rules, but because I didn't know. I'm sorry again, but what it is, everything is done as much as it can prove environment. So this is what I did. And now I can go to jail.
Well, we don't have that power, so,
Okay.
so you don't have to worry about that. Ours is more mostly through civil enforcement, but mostly we try to work things out with people as best we can. And yeah, so let me ask, did you do the work yourself or did you have a contractor?
To my background, I did the work myself. I hold a master in Germany for heating, for plumbing. I am a certified electrician. I built my own house in Germany with concrete floors and bricks and did my own roof. Of course, under supervising from my neighbor, which was an architect. So, and I was in business for more than 40 years. And I was self-employed for the last 20 years. So,
so it sounds like you have mad skills.
well, I let me say, I know a lot of things about a few things.
Right. So, oh, and let me also welcome you to Eastham.
Well, thank you for that.
So your property, the entirety of your property is in a flood zone and has other wetland resources. So that means that under state law and under town bylaws, that anything you want to do on the property for work, it has to come and get permitted with us.
Okay.
So you just have to remember that for the future. And for this project, I would think we need to have an after the fact filing that would detail the work you did and how you did it and the resource areas. It probably would be what do you think, Alex, an administrative review?
Yeah, I think an administrative review would work for this case. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a fairly simple kind of filing that you would have to just lay out the work you did, how you replaced things, kind of if you put anything under your brick walkways and whatever, and talk about the drainage of it and so on, the materials used and all of that. And then that would come back before us and we would most likely approve the work, because now Alex is telling us that we probably would have approved it if you had come and asked in the first place. So, and Alex is a good guy, so we trust him too. Yeah, so I think if everybody's the commission's in agreement with that, if you would kind of get in touch with Alex at the conservation office, and he can talk you through how to do an administrative review filing. Is that something you're okay with?
Yes, I'm very grateful that, well, as I said, I didn't know that I'm into with one foot in the jail. So I know that that we are located in the wetlands, but I wasn't thinking of I'm 15 feet above sea level with the house. And this, for me, this is a lot. I mean, 15 feet, more than 15 feet, but that's a lot. And I never thought I would have to ask for a permission because I'm so far up.
Yeah, but you are entirely in a FEMA velocity zone. So
well, yes, that I know because I have to pay that because I have to pay the insurance.
Yeah.
So
right. So yeah, so this is a little housewarming present from the commission that I think everybody will approve, that we'll let you off easy this time. And we hope you enjoy living in town.
I do have a question because I'm not done with my workload.
Ah, so
Because
any,
my driveway has two sides. So,
so any additional work that is not covered under what you've done already that you're filing an administrative after the fact filing for, you'll have to file a new filing to describe that work and get permission. Was that the question? Yeah, okay. Alex?
But you've owned this property for some time, right? If I'm not mistaken.
yes, we own the properties. It's in 10 years.
Okay.
But we only were here for a few weeks every year in spring and in fall.
Okay.
So now we moved here for good.
Okay, and now that you've moved here for good, you want to strip it up and do all the projects that have been hanging fire for a while.
Well, I'm retired.
Oh, so you need something to do. Well, I do know that a lot of town committees have openings if you want to get involved.
Well,
everybody's looking for volunteers.
Let me get my work done.
Okay, so yeah, I think we're done. Thank you. We appreciate your coming to talk to us about this. And we'll see you again once the permit is submitted.
Thank you very much again. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so what do we have? Education and training updates. So Alex and Joanne, Alex and Janet and I were at the MACC conference on March 1st, which was also Alex's birthday. It was I think a very good conference. I went to we will get the slide decks from the presentations and we'll share them out with all you guys when we have access to that. I had a good time. I talked with some people from Marshfield about their revetments and seawalls and the work they're doing. Brewster, it looks like, is doing working with other towns near it, is doing a shoreline management project very similar to the Eastham Wellfleet Truro and Provincetown one, I guess leveraging that work for their own town. So that's pretty fascinating. What else? Oh, I attended the WPA trivia session and managed to score enough to be rated expert. So I'm pretty pleased with myself, but not enough to be rated certified. Something to work towards. But from that, I learned a few things about culvert permitting, which is good because we're going to have some of those coming up in the next bunch of years. And I learned about projects of types that we never actually get to see here, mostly river-related projects. So that was fascinating. Alex, want to share?
Yeah, no, I'm glad I went, and I'm glad Karen and Janet had the opportunity to go as well. It was good to see some familiar faces. It seems like the Cape was pretty well represented at the conference. I took a course, or I guess a session on writing citations, which was fun. I did another session on dune delineation and wetlands restorations, I believe. And then I actually had to sit out in my last session to take a nap in the car before driving back to the Cape. But it was a long day.
Mm-hmm.
Which highly recommend other commissioners in the future, if you have the opportunity and the time. I thought it was certainly worthwhile.
Yeah, well, Alex was kind enough to drive us all, and that was around just before 6 o'clock in the morning that he got to my house. So it was a long day. We also did get an interesting wetlands tree pre-book from the DEP, and I've asked Alex if he could maybe track down more copies so you each can have one.
And that reminds me, Karen, I've got some other documentation that I think that the commission would find interesting. So what I'll do is I'll compile, I guess, the resources that I received at the conference, and I can send that out to the commission.
Yeah, I have a few as well. So why don't I send them to you, Alex, and you could group them all together?
Yeah, that works.
Okay, and then the floodplain management session is coming up on the 20th. I know Alex and Janet and Greg are registered for that. I think it's probably full at this point, though, if anybody else was interested. Because I know they had been asking for people who were not able to attend to give up their seat. So, yeah, I think that's kind of that. I just want to remind everybody that we do have a work session coming up on April 3rd, and I have finished a draft of the dock regulations, which I've given to Alex and Amy and Hillary to have a look at before I pass them along to you guys, especially because I can't look at it anymore and see anything. But I think I've done a reasonably good job, so I hope you'll like them. And does anybody have anything else they want to discuss before we sign off from this and go to our executive session?
I just have one thing to say. I've got an obligation right at 8, so I'm not going to be able to attend the executive session. Just, I vote yes for whatever it is.
Well, yeah, I can't tell you now. So. But we're voting on the minutes. I can say that much. Okay, so if we could have a motion to adjourn, and then if we it's 8:00. If we could come back maybe at 8:06 because it's 8:01 now, I think that would give Wayne enough time, and we could maybe stand up and walk around for a few minutes. So if we could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, Joanne?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Chuck?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Me? Yes.